go. So you'll have seen on the tracker that you've got to do disconnection, asymmetric, and then doing that razor cutting, texturizing again, etc. So it's again, as level 2, it's a broad, open spectrum of what we can do hair cutting wise. So I will do what I cut hair like. So we're going to break hair cutting down completely again. We're going to go into long layers. We're going to do a few long layer haircuts. Obviously, we touched on the shake, which is the one that I use primarily for somebody who's got quite a lot of hair, wants it to bounce back off of her face and fall away into the back. So you have a lot of bounce, a lot of volume, a lot of softness. Hi, Anne, how are you?
Hi.
Good, nice to see you. You're on our recording here as well, look. So it's that's absolutely, yeah. So you know what to do. Excellent. Shake. So shake is pretty much long, bouncy, sexy, sassy, off the face, beautiful hair. It's for somebody with medium to thicker hair. If you're doing it on someone with fine hair, you can work it, but just don't bring your elevation so high up and around the back. Okay. What I really want to do with level 3 is take it that extra step. So I want to go into the Sassoon ABCs. Anyone know about Sassoon and the ABC course? Right. Okay. So I used to teach the ABCs in Sassoon. It's a £15,000 course, which is for 6 months, and it's intense cutting. They work with a process that you can cut the same techniques on everybody's hair, but you work it differently with your elevation. You work it differently with your own direction, and you will basically assess every area of the person's head to see what the hair is doing and make the hair do something different. Okay, so if I always use me as an example, because as a lady's look, I would have terrible hair as a lady. It's quite thick in the back and then gets very, very fine as it comes into the front piece. So if I'm doing some form of layering where I'm doing a uniform layer or a shake, for instance, it's very difficult to maintain weight in the front, to then do some forward graduation or something in there to help me out. Okay, so the ABCs is about running your weight of hair differently into each individual part of the person's head. Okay, A stands for line, B stands for graduation, C stands for layering. So when we talk about hair in terms of your cutting, you do a graduated bob will be a B and AB, because you're doing your line and your graduation, or bob with graduation. Your shake would be your ABC, because you've got your line, your forward grad, and then into your layer. So everything is connected in with your layers. Everything is connected in with the graduation to then bounce off and hit your line. Okay, so level 3 in the company is, in this company, be careful, don't share this video. Level 3 in this company is, it's basic, really. We're not going to do basic. We're going to push hard and we're going to be doing some intricate stuff. So when we come shorter, we're going to be working with different technique. We're going to push that little bit of creativity into it, but also keep it salon friendly. So for instance, your guest tomorrow that you're, Monday, your guest on Monday that you're working with, what we're going to do today is a fundamental layering technique that will work perfectly. If she's got medium to fine density hair, work something like this. Later on, we'll look at the shake and we'll look at that technique. So if she's got thicker hair, work that technique. But
when you know the technique that you first learned, the square layer, would you not really use that then, right? Because it's quite
it's a nice technique. I would use it over the uniform layer. I would use any technique. I would not do it over the uniform layer. Because the uniform layer is quite a basic look technique. And it takes weight out of areas that you don't want to go away from. Mainly in here around the cheek area. Forget the round layer. Yeah. As a round layer, use your shake. So the shake is a much cleaner round layer. But round shapes. So basically, what does a round shape do? Anyone remember? Can you see that?
So your round shapes get shorter in the front and longer into the back. And you over direct forwards for the hair to sit back. Okay, so my hair is round. My hair shape should be round. If it was cut as a round graduation, you'd be starting from the front, over direct into the previous to gradually increase the length as we go back so that it sits back on my face easily. I get up in the morning, it's all over the place, but just put a bit of water in it and it then sits back. I do have to style it obviously when I get here, but it is a round shape because it's inherently shorter in the front and longer into the back. I have to have something back here because otherwise I've got a massive occipital bone, so it all sticks out. So if you give me a skim and fade, I'll look really like a pencil with a big bulge on the back of my head. So it's really not good.
I want to see that though.
When we get down to gents time, you're going to be doing all your haircuts on me, I imagine. Trying to find a lot of gents is hard. Your triangular shape is completely different. Now, we will be going into this in an awful lot of detail in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, it's the opposite. So you're going to be shorter in the back, longer into the front, and you over direct back for the hair to sit forwards. So your graduated bobs, where we were standing in the back and everything was pulled back into the previous and then all back into here to elongate that length. The idea of working this way, as opposed to doing your uniform layer where you're around, just moving everything down. That's all one dimensional, it's all two dimensional. It's all very vertical sections. What you need is the idea that if you've got somebody's hair that is going short, it's longer, there's a bit on here. You've got your shorter piece up here, and we're gradually getting longer internally into the front hairline, as well as our line that's going shorter to longer. So all in here, all of this connects, and all of that runs and works together. So when she does that with her hair and shoots it around, it moves and then sits back where it wants to go. The same with your layering in the front. So if we use the shape, it's a plumb round shape because we're shorter in the front and longer into the back as we go back round the head. With your uniform layer, what happens is, see that? I don't think you're doing that. But with your uniform layer, all the hair does is just sits flat. So none of it connects. And it's all the same level the whole way round. And then your line is down here. So it doesn't really have any connection. Where we work with the shape is this comes all and flips and flips and flips. That's our first section into our forward grad. And then our layering in here all gradually gets longer and longer as we flip back towards the back of the head. But all in here, all this layering connects. Make sense? Yeah. So the connection is the key. And I say all the time about, I use my sisters. Please don't share this video if we're gonna be going into this. I'm gonna have to cut this bit out. I always go into my sisters as my example of my hair cutting technique compared to hers. And this doesn't, not big headed because I went further into my training. But when we both cut my mum's hair, my mum's got a bob with graduation. She's got thick hair, it's like hay, it's ridiculous. Do not share this video. I was like, honestly, I'll never see this again. Slating me all around here. I'm going to get onto her in a minute, that's a big trouble. My mum's got hair like hay, it's mental, so thick. But you have to cut it with shape. You have to get that connection. Otherwise, it just sits. My sister's cut it recently, and it's a lovely line. But internally, the bob's all off, and it's all blocky on one side. And she moves, it just goes bump, and then just sits back again. It doesn't do much. And I said to her the other day, "Your hair's a bit short." So she said, "Oh yeah, I know it is a bit short, but it's lovely." But I had this big ridge, and I didn't want to say about the ridge. If she had lowered her elevation, it would have worked perfect. It's just an elevation perspective is the only thing. So when we go into cutting hair, connect everything. Yes, your body position and where you move is crucial, but your over direction controls your shape, your elevation controls your weight. So all of this where we're pulling the hair around over the head is over direction. That controls your shape. Elevation controls your weight. So you could do a shape on, oh, your hair looks quite thick to me. I've never thought, is it quite thick? So your hair's quite thick, as opposed to, we use Brogan as an example. Brogan's hair's a little bit more delicate, a little bit more finer. You can do the same technique on yourself and Brogan, but your elevation will change. So your elevation will be higher for yourself, as opposed to Brogan's, where you just lower your elevation. Still do the same form of shape.
that way you can have your clients basically doing the same cuts but different cuts to match their face shape, match their densities, and match their hair. Okay? Enough chatting, let's go. So I'm going to run, forget your radial and profile for cutting. Okay? You can remember your profile if you want, but forget your radial. We're not going to, I don't ever work with a radial section. Anyone think why you wouldn't want to really work on your radial? You'd rather work on something that would go back. Any idea? Yeah. So you got the crown. Why?
Just because that's where there's like the weight, not the weight of the hair, but like this that big thick of hair.
Yeah, absolutely. So generally people's hair is quite thick in the crown area. And we now want to focus on our danger zones. So the crown is one of your biggest danger zones. So we want to isolate the crown as early as we possibly can. Also, I always talk about this big panel of hair into the back of the ear and to the top. That whole area we need to control quite heavily. So if you're working from your radial on the top and you're bringing your layering into your long graduation or your round graduation, for instance, this whole area is going to misbehave quite heavily. Everyone's crown is jumpy. People have jumpy crowns in others. So I go just under, my crown's probably in there. Also, the crown is dead center on your head. So we've said before, if you poke, stick through your crown, comes out the chin, cut it in half, wallop, you've got 2 pieces of hair. Hello. You're right. We don't have any shots for that this year, next Friday. So can you put some more? Yeah. Is that all right? Okay, yeah, do it all in the just started a new, so these guys. Don't shut up. There you go, there. Perfect. Absolutely. We do every service. Cheers, take care. So layering, we're going to go in. So what is, or what elevation does our layering start at? Yes, so are you saying 90 out or are you saying straight up? Straight up. Out. Yeah, good. So think of, I'm going to get some new pens today. Let's go here. Think of your elevation chart. Okay. So you've got 0, 90, 180, 270. There will be these. And stick a head in there. And this is your side view, obviously. So what we see from the side of the person. Anything off of 0 degrees, you are removing weight from the hair. So over the last couple of weeks or last couple of months, I've questioned everything I've done in hosts and that because I was always taught that graduations are build up of weight. Technically, it's not, because as soon as you're lifting from 0 degrees, you are removing weight from the hair. So your heaviest form of graduation is your line, which is why we don't call it a one leg, because it's technically no such thing. Well, there is such thing, but we'll get on to that. So anything from 0 degrees to 89 degrees is graduation. Okay. Graduation is stacking hair on top of each other. So it's where your hair is getting longer as you're coming up and your external line is the shortest. Everything internally comes up. Okay? Anything 90 degrees and above is your layer. So where we were doing our square layer at 180 degrees, or your uniform layer where we were utilizing all of the space, that would all be layered. Okay? Now, the uniform layer technically was very, very light to start, and then you're pushing your weight back into the hair, so you're getting heavier and heavier as you're coming down with your elevation, which doesn't make any sense.
you're just pushing that weight from there down to the mid leg. So in a couple of weeks, she's going to get a big band of weight running around about here through the look. So it's going to start puffing out and get very, very flat on the top. It's not going to work. Okay. So we are going to work through our layers. So we're still going to work with vertical sections for now in the back section. Okay. So only primarily working back here. Line we would have lifted anyway, and then we're going to start. Okay. So section number 1. Why do we start in the center? Why can't we start on the right there? Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Don't think so hard on it. Rule number 1 of them, don't think so hard. Like the answer you're thinking, you're saying that, it's just stupid. It'll probably be the answer. It's because it's the roundest part of the head. Yeah? So you've got the head's round, it's the highest part, the roundest part, and if you start with your layering in here, and it's that's lovely, and it comes too short in here, you have a really short layering. We'll start in the center, okay? And then we're going to start square on, so depending on if you're right or left-handed, stand in the side that feels right for you. And we're just going to work with our elevation. Okay? So again, our line will drop away, but I am going to work my first piece of elevation just a little bit higher than nicely. So I'm going to go into about this. Okay? My outline drops away. I don't have a corner because I'm running straight into that shape and keeping my elevation and on my line. You can, if you want to get a little bit more of a choppiness to your layer, come through and point cut the whole thing. Either way works really quite nicely. The point cut for me works really, really well, but I only point cut on the second piece. What's the issue if I were to just leave my layering there and drop it? What do we think could happen? Think of now expanded shape. We've been through expanded shape, yeah, where your hair stands out there. We're chasing corners out of hair with layering. So we've got our line coming up to here. What could be the issue with just leaving it with that form of elevation? Could be a bit heavy. Yeah, because my elevation stops there. Okay, so this top piece here, after a couple of weeks, we're going to form a little bit of weight on that. Okay, so what can I do to just push that weight out a little bit more? A little bit higher, yeah. So lift that little top piece up just a little bit higher. There's my corner. Okay, and just wet that up. A little row there. So now we've gone for our line, our layering, and then we chip that top piece up and just lift it up. So we're pushing that elevation higher. So we're thinking about our elevation. So section number, my elevation 1 was it here. This piece here is going to give us a little bit of a corner. So I'm just going to lift, here's my section, in there, and lift that second one just up to here. So remember how we were working the shape, and we came back round the shape, and it was like a section like this. We're doing the same thing but starting from the back. The reason we're starting from the back is we're imagining she's got quite fine hair and pushing hair into the front to keep the weight from our forward rotation. Make sense? Everyone with me so far? No, I'll go out. Yeah, you might be on my sheet.
Everyone's on the Zoom call today. Right, so when we work with elevation, we're just pushing hair out. Okay, so we're pushing hair up and pushing hair out. This is good for somebody with medium thickness hair, slightly finer in the front, we're pushing the weight forward. Okay, so section number 2, we come next door, and we want to work however big sections you want to do in the back. I usually do 1, 2, 3, 4 in the back. Okay, and now we want to work with over direction. So we know that the head is round in the back, and if we were coming round off the back of the head, we're going to be doing our uniform back. Okay, so we're going to start taking that weight away from the front. So where would I pull the head back to? Just gave you the answer. So I'm going to over direct the head back to the previous. Okay, because I want to start gaining length as I'm coming back into the side. Okay, if I go back to the first section, it's going to be almost too heavy. So if someone's got really fine hair, come back to the first section. You'll push that weight all the way in the front. That then gives you the stability to do your forward graduation or your face framing, things like that. So I'm going to bring 2 to 1, 3 to 2, 4 to 3. Okay, and all standing in the same place. So we come again with the same elevation. So obviously you guys are now really, really good at attention. That's so important that we come through, comb a few times, and over direct ourselves back. Now it's good to work in front of a mirror so that you can check your over direction. Okay. So we're going to comb in nicely from the root, staying at the same point, same elevation as section number 1. Okay, and run our layer. And then obviously that top piece, we lifted just a little bit higher. Okay, so we lift higher, and there's that corner. Okay, corners in layering are a nightmare because they're just going to build your weight up when you get to the very end of the neck. Okay, then get rid of section number 1, run that way, and if I spin around so you can see over direction, we'll come to section number 3, and 3 is going to come back into number 2. Okay, so again, standing square on, nice clean section in, and we're going to pull back, check over the top to see if your over direction is working nicely, and elevate high, pick up your guide, and again, if you want to point cut that, you can point cut it, absolutely fine. And then my final section, just lift high, point cut out that area. Okay, and then section 4 probably won't reach because I do have some round layering in here. Yeah.
Sorry, I can't get the cactus though.
Yeah, I think it's the hood dryer maybe a bit powerful, so just pull it off. And make sure it's not too powerful. That should be all right. She's not going to. So we're going to cross check. How am I going to cross check? Horizontal. Good. And where am I going to lift to? Same place. Good. And what am I going to see? Am I going to see a square line? Am I going to see a square line? Am I going to see a slightly round line? Or am I going to see a slight triangle line?
Triangle.
Okay. Everyone agree? Anyone differ? Think of the other direction.
Round.
Round?
No. Yeah, that bottom one. What's that? Yeah, that's round. No, that's triangle.
Triangle. So if we're over directing to the first, it's going to be triangular because we're getting longer into we're getting massively longer into the front. If we're over directing not at all and we're stepping round the head, it's going to be round. So we're looking at square because we're over directing to the previous, and it's gradually getting longer as we go forward. Make sense? Yeah? Good. So section 1 off the top, I elevate higher, yeah? So I want to make sure that this comes just a little bit higher with my cross check. Just ding off any little bits.
Shaking up hair.
I've probably elevated it to the wrong place. And then section number 2, I'm going to stand here just to make sure. Section number 2, we came a little bit lower. So we're going to elevate just that little bit lower. And then we've got our square. Okay, so if you've got somebody with very fine hair and you want, it will become more clear why we're doing this in a second when we go on to the front, okay? But if you've got somebody with very fine hair from the front section onwards, when you're doing forward graduation, you're going to have wispy bits in the front. So even if you put the shaping in there, it's not really going to do anything. So you want to push that internal weight in to then control that front. That's basically what we're doing. Because she's got reasonably medium density hair, we can get away with doing something a little bit squarer in the back and then push it to triangular in the front. Okay, so when you get to the end of level 3, you're going to be thinking, right, square round and triangular and my elevation. She's got lots of hair in the back, not much hair in the front. You square layering in the back, but then push. So your square layering is different to your square layering. That's why I'm saying forget most of your stuff from level 2. Square layering in the base is how we work it on level 3. And then you're going to push to triangular, because triangular layering pushes hair forwards. We need a bit of weight in the front, and then we can control that with something in front. Make sense? Sure? Any questions so far? Am I talking nonsense, or is it?
I'm understanding it with our memories.
Yeah.
That's fine. We're going to go through this loads. There's not as much to cover in level 3. So even when we're going into our real intricate short hair cutting techniques, we're still going to be talking in shape. We're still going to be talking in form. So back to section 1. Pick up section 2 from the left-hand side. This is where it gets a little bit more tricky because you're pushing away from yourself. So if you feel more comfortable pulling, come away to this side and pull it across to yourself. Find that people find that a little bit easier. I don't. I quite like standing in one side. So if you do, I don't mind if you want to switch sides. It's absolutely fine. So we're now going to lift, and outline will drop away again. And nice tension. Make sure our over direction is coming away to the opposite side, and we can go. So flare through, and then that little top section again, just elevate a little bit higher, and again work some point cutting. Again, split down section number 1, get rid of it, and then we've got 3 back into 2. So keep your sections nice and clean and tidy. Again, over, back into the previous. Pick up the same elevation, and then look at the top piece. Start to control. And last bit should reach. Okay, and then that in the back is your layering technique that will get you out of trouble more times than you can think. If you don't know what to do, just run some square layering in the back, a bit of triangular layering in the front, and it will work.
Would that also like kind of work for any like cuts that you just get, like say like innocent hair?
Yeah, absolutely. If you've got quite thick hair, it works quite well. Because you're coming higher and you're elevating higher, it works very well in the back for thick hair.
And what about thin hair? It's like a bit of movement sort of thing.
Yeah, so just keep your elevation lower. So, still point in the top piece. You're going to come lower. You're not going to come as high. Yeah, come a little bit lower. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Absolutely. Come nice and out here, onto 90 degrees. Keep control, keep her head up, run it into here, run your line, and then I would elevate that tiny top piece a little bit higher just to point that corner, just so it doesn't look a little bit boxy. Okay? Perfect. So the longer the layer you want, the heavier you're going to want it. Drop your layering down, but not below 89 degrees, because you get a big bulk of weight on the bottom. Okay? And then when we bounce her about a little bit, sits quite nice, quite flicky, still nice and long, so your layering is quite long in comparison to where the line is. But we've elevated height. So the lower you come, the lower down your layers go. Okay? So into the front is where we can start changing things up a little bit. And where we can start changing up the technique. So I now want to flow that section forward. So I'm going to work one side first, then the other. For anything triangular, we want our section to be slightly diagonal going forwards. Okay, just to push that way in. All right, it works with the head. Where we're working vertically with everything in the front piece, it's a little bit, the head's forward. We want the head to sort of fling forward, and then we're going to do something in the front to fling it back. So you get this nice sort of congealing of hair, if you will, into the base. So we're now going to come into the back, pick up a guideline from the back piece, and I now want to over direct everything back to my highest point of elevation I have. Okay, so my guide is in my back piece. If you want to clip that away, you can clip that away. Absolutely fine. I'm going to work diagonally forward into my outline and start work my layer. I'll start to work my layer. Not start work my layer. So stand in the back, highest point of elevation is in here. We're now going to hold, always layer on the outside of your finger, it's easier. If you're doing it on the inside, you're lifting yourself too high, you're going to do yourself big, and it's going to put pressure. Okay, so standing square onto your guest, head up still. We're going to work, elevate ourselves up, and begin our over direction. So we're now, that's my guide. Try to glide first. It was quite hard. Excellent. So we're now working to pick up into my foot and from my.
So the way you're running that, so you're putting it into the middle, right, into the center.
Straight out. Yeah. So my elevation was here, then my top piece was here, and now I'm running that higher into the front. Okay. So again, my first elevation was in there, second piece was there, so my third piece I'm bringing to there. Little bit higher in the Make sense? Make sense? So again, I'm going to pick a bit more up. So I think I've got 6 guide. So again, a bit higher, yeah, just slightly up. So run. You can also point cut that area if you want. Point cutting from here on forwards works quite nicely. So now everything's going to come back to there, okay? Because I want all of this to gain length. Okay, so section 2, 3, 4, all into that point. Okay, so we're pushing that length into the front of the head. Okay, so again, diagonal section into the front. What's this also doing? With my over direction in the side, instead of coming out from where the head falls, what am I also doing? Protecting that up. Yeah. So the same way as we were working the shape, this is a shape but the other way around. Yeah, that's what it is. Around there is a square there, there's a triangular there, the other way. You're just starting in a different place. So where your shape you came in and pulled away from that hairline bit around the ears, we're doing the same round here, we're just whopping that back to here. So we're controlling this whole piece. That's the part we always want to protect. There's so much fine hair. Yeah, good. So section 2, standing in the same place, and we're just going to elevate higher.
Would you pull that into the first one?
Into the first one, yeah.
So it's always put it into the previous one?
Always into the previous one. But this one's back into the first one because we're running ourselves quite heavily into the front. If you're back into the previous, you can do that. You're just going to work yourself forwards and come in. So you're still going to get the length in the front. It's not going to be as much heaviness.
So is this layering going to look quite harsh?
Cool. Cool. Yeah, nice and soft, nice and sound. Point cut it so it's a little bit more. Yeah. It's only harsh to go too short. By harsh, do you mean, what do you mean by harsh?
You know, like when you actually think of them and the layers are like there and it's really.
Oh God, no. it all blends. That's the reason you work vertically in the back so that it blends, and then you're working in the front. So it's just your layering in the front's gonna come quite flat. It's not gonna be like a big chunk of layering. It's just gonna be quite soft and quite delicate. Then we come and do something in the front and sort of push that weight out. But it won't be. It's not gonna be like there's a layer, there's a layer, and there's one there. No. Yeah. Always stay away from doing those sorts of layers. Choppy. Just come through a point. You don't want it madness, yeah. The lower your elevation, perfect. So if your elevation's here when you're doing your layering, pull this layering back down to here. So don't come all the way up and high. So just keeping yourself a little bit lower. If you're point cutting the light pattern as well, it's going to be soft. You're not going to see it really. Good question. And again into here. Second one today. It's a Friday. So back into here, and we've run out of hair. Okay. So when I cross check, I'm going to break a rule now. We're not going to put it back to where we want, where we cut it. Okay. We're going to pull it straight up. And if I pull it straight up, what am I going to see? Am I going to see flat, short, long, or short? What? That. Agree? Why? That. That.
Like if you put it side, if you put it up, it should put that. I don't know. How do you write your hair?
Okay. What do you think? What I did? Okay, so we're going to look for that. Yeah, because we're pulling the front back to here, so we're maintaining that length into the front. Make sense? That's the shape. You're doing a round that, where we're doing a triangle there. So you're on the right track. Don't worry. You're on the right track. Don't worry, I'll get it later. But we're just going the other way. So in here, we want to come high and just see that we've got our shorts along back. Okay? And if I whop some in this side as well, just to get us finished, because yeah. Yeah? Pardon? Oh yeah. Change your hair dryer too. There's no vent in the back of that one. No vent in the back of that one.
There's one over there.
Around here. So we are now on the opposite side, so come back and start on here. Don't want to take your guided section from the bottom, you just pull a load up. And then obviously, Louise, when you're doing your guest on Monday, you'll be a little bit lower.
I feel like when I'm cutting, I used to get how high I've elevated it.
Yeah.
I used to as well. So Louise, you're going to be down here, and that's pretty much where your layering is going to go. It's not going to be loads in the front, and then we're going to come and do a little bit of something in the front to push it back. So your layers are going to sit nice and flat, and it's going to be quite blended and quite cool. It's nice. Whereas with us, we're going to be just a little bit higher. Make sure we're combing out and getting a nice tension. And my guide, so I'm going to point this up. So mind your fingers. And make sure we're from low. Adjust. Okay. Makes sense?
Yeah, so I know you already said this, but I feel like I got confused. So you always just go to the, when you do the front bit, you always just go to the first one, you don't go to the previous one.
Yes. Yeah. Depends if you've got loads of hair, go to the previous one.
If it's fine.
If it's fine or medium, just come back into here, into the first one, and then we'll deal with that later. So we'll deal with that later. But now I'm going to have a bit of weight in the front. Okay, my weight on this client is falling into the front, and now the layers look a bit short because I haven't taken my line up as well. Just bear that in mind. So it's not gonna be this short layer. Okay, so I've now got my weight in the front because I want to do something for the front piece. So what can I do in the front to control my layer or to control that front piece of my hair? What can I do? What does she need in the front? A bit of something. Yeah, a bit of face paint. So then we're going to go into how we use for graduation. Okay. Does your guest want face paint? Yeah. So we're going to do push her back and then do our little shoes in the front. So little fine section to these, little fine section in the front, pin that away. No, not particularly. You're going to have people that you don't see before. You'll be fine. Don't be nervous. You've done lots of hair here that's all come out really, really well. You're going to not see people, especially with your business you're looking to do. People are going to turn up and you're not going to be able to see every one of them. Yeah. So it's a case of, right, just check the texture, the density, see how thick it is, and then just change your elevation in your mind. So if it's thicker than I thought it is, I'm just going to lift it a bit higher. Don't go mental, lift it up here. Because the square layer, you're always going to get short layers. The round, the uniform layer, you're always going to get short layers. So just working it in there, a little bit higher if you and creates you a little bit more of a second shape. So again, in the front, we're going to stand out the way, but we're going to work our forehead. So we're going to take our little piece across the nose, okay? The usual technique that we've been doing since we started. And don't be scared of standing in front of your client here. So I'm only going to go a little bit, so I'm going to go into there, nice and clean. And then start angling your fingers again to the facial features, okay? First question, yes. We're going to push the weight back again. So we're gonna elevate. We're gonna do the first 3 sections of our forward drive, and the layers are gonna come in, and then we're gonna take off that corner. So you see that corner when we were coming up high? There's that big corner up here. This is what's gonna remove that corner. So it's all gonna combine and connect. You're right. If we did just do one section, it's gonna look stupid. It's gonna be very heavy on both sides. Then you're just gonna have this flip in the front. You have to lift that front piece up and just push it. That's the view. Very good. So again, come down, and I would stand directly in front, but we're going to angle to the corner of our lip, pick up my guide, which is in there, and just work my line. And again, in here. I'm going to stand in front of you, Paige, for a minute. And then here. Combine my line. And make sure you're standing in front of her. It's too difficult here. Just realised. So then section 2, where we're finding our corner now internally from where we're over directing back, we're just going to push that shape back. Okay. And we now don't need to bother angling our fingers, just pick up your piece, graduation line, and that's the corner there. Okay, and then just gently point cut that away. Keep your tension, and again, that's that fat corner off the top. Let's just soften it down, and if she's got density, go one more back. sense? So your triangular shapes push hair forwards, your round shapes push hair back, and your square shapes control your edges, control your corners, and are square, I guess. So last step, please. We've removed that corner now, so we've now just got a little one from the section before, and just point that away, and then. So when we soften her and just her back, you get. Obviously, it's difficult to see when you upload, but I'll blow by this. The layers sit nice and clean around the side.
Three sections.
Little free section. Yeah. And then it gives her that little bit of smooth around the face. When we blow dry, of course, and you're going to get some nice clean layers. Obviously, I would have lifted my line first of all, so the layers like this. Say she has a side parting. What do we need to do differently in the whole look? Is there anything we need to do differently? Yeah, absolutely. Why would you do that? A lot of people I know start on the side, start on the top, start on their layering area. But what I've achieved here is off level layers. Okay. Because if she only wears it in that parting, we want to change the way we work. If she flips her parting around, put it in the center, do what we've just done. She can flip it and it looks quite cool having that little bit of shush and a bit of something in there. Okay. If she's one of those ladies who has a set parting, don't want to move it, thank you very much. And you try and convince her, because it is better cutting it out of the parting than in a parting, because it has more fluidity and flow. If she's stuck on that point, we need to change our technique. Okay? Otherwise, we're going to get left with, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? The top layer is a lot shorter. Okay? So all we need to change when we're coming from the back into the front, so the back stays the same, the front changes, and it all is in our elevation. Okay, so what we need to change is the heavier side or the thicker side of fringe, of side comes lower, and our lighter side comes higher. Okay, because you're traveling further with this side. Okay, so if I show you, let's put the same section pattern, same technique, but my heavy side, I'm going to have my elevation lower. Okay. I'm going to cut it in so you can see the difference. Okay. So my heavy side is lower, and then as we work back, I'm going to run out of hair by the time I get to the front. So that's where my section is going to be. I'm still layering, I'm still elevated slightly. Then my lighter side, I want this to come higher. So here, I'm going to elevate this here, and I'm going to run line. Okay. And then section 2, up here, section number 1. Hold it. Section 3. Same technique, elevation comes higher. The reason is, this side here has less far to travel to get down to that point of layer. So we need to bring it less far back so that we don't elongate the length a little bit too much. Okay. To cross check, your section of hair from the parting to the center of the head, there should be a step that same side. So lift both sides, and we've got a step up, and that should be the exact same length from the parting to the center of the head. Okay, so when you cross check it up, we've got a step about that big,
That's the same step from the part into the center of our head, and our layers
And the sun moves out of it, doesn't it?
sit more back. So we've got our leg and our leg. Balance. Okay? Does that make sense? So if you've got somebody with a parting, we're now balanced on both sides. So when you've got your section on the side, if she flips it, try and convince her to flip it. If you can get her to move her partner around, it's perfect. So much better. It's your blow dry, you don't then blow dry it with a party. So when you dress it back and pull her head back and you get rid of that party, you get so much more volume, you get so much more movement to the hair. It's just beautiful. Having no set party when you're doing somebody's hair looks fantastic. And then you can dress it all back. Don't let her see it in the mirror until you're done. So get your serum, run through it, loosen up that curl a little bit, ping her head forward and wallop. And you get this really good thing, nice volume, nice little bit of softness, good layering. If she's got a parting, you have to be careful. So the lighter side lifts higher, same technique. The heavier side lifts lower. The gap from the parting to the center of the head, when you lift it up, you should have a step. That step should be the same, and it will always be balanced.
If she's got the side parting and she wants to stay there,
Yep.
what do you do before graduation? Do you do that with the side parting?
With the side parting, same technique. You may just want the heavier side to lift it a little bit further over. So still do your same angle, but just a little bit. Make sense? Any questions? Good. Begin. Excellent.